order the meeting of the Greenwood Common Council on Monday, October the 17th. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and after the pledge, please remain standing. We'll be led in prayer this evening by Reverend David Barth Owen, the lead chaplain at Otterbein Franklin Senior Life Community. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. God of all, your son Jesus told us in Matthew 23 that there is a direct connection between greatness and servanthood. Lord, we thank you for the greatness of Greenwood. We're thankful for our mayor. We are thankful for these counselors and our city leaders. Thankful for every agency, department, and service and the workers that make these a reality. We are thankful for the residents of Greenwood and their public spirit. Thankful for our history and our heritage. We are thankful that many opportunities are available for Greenwood. Great things blossom every day. In these few moments, we celebrate with pride that Greenwood, Indiana is a great place to live. Lord, remind us of that connection between greatness and servanthood. And if we are to progress as a city and as a people, we must be servants of each other, truly caring about our neighbors and our city. Bless these counselor servants as they wrestle with budgets and decisions and resources and needs and priorities. Servanthood, O Lord, is hard work. You know that. Yes, God of all, I ask your blessing upon this council and the agenda before them. Bless them with the greatness they deserve for being the leaders and the servants of our community. Great God of all, servant of all, thank you for smiling upon Greenwood, Indiana. Let each of us pray in our own way, and I'll pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. We'll ask Reverend Owen to step to the front, and the mayor, if he would join us. As some of you already know, the council passed a resolution here a while back to honor Reverend Owen. And I'm not going to read all of the whereas clauses, but Reverend Owen has been the president of the Johnson County Ministerial Association for the last 15 years. And he served over 30 years in the ministry, and recently serving at the Otterbein Franklin Life Community Center. And he's been there for 23 years. He gave his first invocation here for the council in December of 2003, and took over the responsibilities of organizing our invocation here in 2008. And he has given the invocation prior to tonight 61 times. This makes 62. And I know he has been doing this longer than I've been on the council. But the one part I will read, it says, now therefore be resolved by the mayor of Greenwood and the Greenwood Common Council that on behalf of the citizens of Greenwood, Indiana, the mayor and the Greenwood Common Council, we hereby express to Reverend Owens our deep appreciation and gratitude for his service. One thing I do know, he is retiring from being the lead chaplain at the Otterbein in Franklin. However, I know men like Reverend Owen may retire from an organization, but they never retire from serving God and serving others. And as he mentioned tonight about servant leadership, he is a great example of that. And so with that, we'd like to present you with this plaque that has a copy of the ordinance and all that it says. And we appreciate all that you've done for Greenwood and for us. And he will continue to coordinate our invocation program here, but we wanted to honor him with this tonight. So this, I think they wanted to. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, roll call.
Present.
Campbell,
Here.
Foster,
Here.
Gibson. Here. Bill.
Here.
Hopper.
Here.
Lexi.
Here.
Middleton
Here.
and Moody.
Here. And we have a quorum. All of you should have received copies of the minutes for our last regular meeting on October the 3rd. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Motion by,
Mr. President,
yes.
there are a few issues with the minutes I noticed.
Well, let's take a motion in a second and then we'll go. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Bates, second. Second by Mr. Lexi. Any additions, deletions, or corrections?
It appears Mr. Dine voted aye for all ordinances at the last meeting. That needs to be corrected.
All right,
I'm sorry.
You should have Bob voted for all the ordinances at the last meeting.
Something I copied for something else.
Yeah, you just need to tweet his name out, I think.
all right. Then, Mr. Foster's making the motion and correct the motions to.
Remove any reference.
Yeah. And we have a second by Mr. Hoppus. All in favor of that, do these roll call. Roll. Yeah. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Right. The minutes have been amended. Any discussion or any further additions, deletions, or corrections on the minutes as amended? Hearing none, then roll call on the minutes.
Bates.
Aye.
Excuse me. Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Bill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
And Williams.
Aye.
Minutes as amended have been passed on a vote of 9-0. Reports, Corporation Council.
You all should have received the items semi-monthly, and if you have questions, please let me know.
Any other controller at this time?
Not at this time.
Any other committee or board reports? Normally, I would have a RDC report for you. However, the RDC did not meet last week. We met today at 4:30, and I haven't been able to prepare a report since then. So, any other committee or board reports?
Yes, Mr. President, we did have a planning commission meeting last Monday night, a week ago. There was a request for continuances from Spade Ridge Suites Commercial Site Plan Extension, as well as a staff request to initiate a commitment vacation for Equal Core Development. We did act upon 2 items of new business, which is the medical primary plat, PW medical primary plat, I should say, for approval for approximately 7 acres, along with 1 lot, 1 block located at 795 North Emerson Avenue. We also approved the schedule for the ZBA and meetings for next year.
Any other committee, any questions for Mr. Bates? Any other committee or board reports? Hearing none, this is the opportunity we set aside to have members of the public address the council concerning items that are on tonight's agenda. And if you're here tonight, wish to address the council in a moment, I'll have you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. I would, a couple things, there is a 5-minute time limit per person and a 20-minute time limit per topic. And as in the past, just a reminder that this council meetings are not conducted the same as the plan commission meetings. There's not an opportunity for each side to state within a rebuttal time. So if there's an issue that you have with something on tonight's agenda, you'll be given an opportunity to speak now. And then when the item comes up on the agenda, the only ones that will give an opportunity to speak at that time will be the petitioner. So just so that we're clear. So if you're here tonight, wish to address the council about an item that's on tonight's agenda, please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Peterson, and I live at 3195 East Rock Lane Road. And I'd like to talk about the Pulte Home Del Webb item that's number 1 on the agenda tonight. I'm representing the East of 65 Property Owners Association. And we want to oppose the Pulte Home, Del Webb addition as presented. All the residents were sent letters, and it explained exactly the specifications of the addition. The letter said there's going to be 556 homes. There's been a little bit of controversy about exactly how many. The Daily Journal says 519. The letter says 556. At the meeting before last, the planners stated that the Pulte has the option to put in 519 to 556 homes. Whether it's 519 or 556, it's way too dense. And we feel that the developer should not be the one that decides how many homes go in. I mean, they're going to put as many as possible to maximize their profit. And if you look at the map, that's exactly what they did. I've been in a Del Webb community before. My wife's aunt lived there, and it was nice. I mean, it was definitely not like this. I mean, this is going to look like row houses. The lots are small, the houses are close together. We don't feel that this is a quality development for Greenwood. I mean, I'm sure Greenwood would like to have a 55+ community, and a Del Webb community is like Westfield, Arnold, Fishers, Plainfield. However, the homes are just too crowded. I mean, for $500,000 or $600,000 homes, they shouldn't be 10 feet away from each other. As proposed, the development's going to have very narrow lots. 296 lots will be 46 feet wide, only 46 feet wide. And the houses will be 5,750 square feet. 260 lots will be 52 feet wide. And we believe with lot sizes and homes that size, that there'll only be 5 to 6 feet on each side of the home, which means there'll only be 10 to 12 feet between the homes. I mentioned at the previous meeting to the developer, we thought that the lot sizes should be larger. And I think they were a little confused because they said, well, when you're 55 plus, you don't want to mow your yard, you don't want a big yard. No one said anything about mowing the yard. I would hope with a $250+ homeowner's fee each month that they could take care of the maintenance, including any yard maintenance that needs to be done. And with this small yards, it won't take 10 minutes. But you know, the seniors in Greenwood deserve something better. I mean, we're actually speaking for them because none of them have moved in yet. But they need to have room for themselves, walk their dogs, park their cars. And you know, why let the developer decide the density? Why doesn't the planning commission or the city council decide what Greenwood wants? We're just asking for quality development. We want this to set the precedent for the east side, where there's thousands of acres and many developments that are going to go in. And we don't think apartment complexes with 580 some apartments or multifamily dense housing is the right thing. We'd like to see what's out there right now, which is single family housing. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council at this time?
My name is John Cakes, representing Cakes Family Farms LLC, 3981 East Matthews Road, Greenwood, Indiana. I'd like to address drainage issues in regards to this the Pulte Sagebriar case. Pulte Sagebriar. We're making good progress with Pulte regarding direct drainage onto our adjacent properties and believe we can reach a mutually agreeable solution. The second issue is increasing drainage into Brooks Ditch, which is not just a Pulte issue, but a Greenwood and Johnson County issue. As you continue to push the Greenwood city limits to the east, to raise forested land, pave over farmland for development, as a result, drainage issues with Brooks Ditch have steadily increased, especially with stormwater flooding. This ditch, along with numerous other ditches, were built over 100 years ago to handle drainage from agricultural and forestry land, not land covered with asphalt concrete. A recent survey from the Johnson County Drainage Board suggested that addressing the problems of these drainage ditches was a $300 million plus project. I would add that's not to say that Brooks Ditch will cost anything like that. It will cost. Further, they remarked that the majority of the problems were in the northeastern section of Johnson County, where the land is flat, it's very flat. This is exactly the area that Greenwood is annexing and urbanizing. This will create urban and stormwater drainage, which is not only larger in quantity, it will create the need for an actual upgrade to an urban drainage ditch. The problem along Brooks Ditch has grown steadily worse over the last 20 years and is now a major problem. This is not a problem the council can set aside for the next administration to deal with. Which seems to be the plan at the present time. If you want to develop the northeastern corner of Greenwood and annex yet more land, you're taking on a major capital commitment to convert Brooks Ditch from agricultural to urban drainage. Be sure we're not going to stand by if you try to do it as a paperwork project rather than as an actual major capital investment. We'll work with the Greenwood's Stormwater Department, Johnson County Drainage Board, Surveyor's Office, and any other state or federal agencies that see that this problem is not sidelined just for expediency. Or alternatively, you can avoid dumping stormwater in Brooks Ditch, stop the development that creates the problem, or pump the stormwater westward to the White River. Your master plan indicates stormwater should be handled on the property and that property only adjacent property and not drain on adjacent properties.
Mr. Hitchens,
You're ignoring this caveat with your plan to dump urban drainage into and stormwater into Brooks Ditch, which is agricultural.
Mr. Hicks, you have about 30 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, the other side of this coin is that this project is doable. I believe, given the timelines, that I've seen Johnson County and the city of Greenwood tackle much larger projects than Brooks Ditch and successfully bring them to a conclusion. I think we can do that if we all cooperate. That would make all parties a winner. Wouldn't that be a great piece of news, especially these days? I appreciate your consideration and your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time?
Hi, my name is Jackie Briggs. I live at 1478 Eaglehurst Drive in Greenwood, Indiana. Our family owns the 186 acre parcel. We have been members of the South Side and Greenwood communities most of our lives. Involvement in this area has given us the benefit of enjoying nice relationships with several of the landowners in the Five Points Road locale, engagement in various organizations supporting the community. Like many of us here this evening, our family is invested in the best interests of our community. When considering the different possibilities for our family's parcel, we had a few very important goals in mind. One was provide a legacy that the family would be proud of, a low-impact development, help to meet the needs of Greenwood, provide significant long-term benefits to the future of the area. My profession, which is managing broker and commercial real estate, has given me the experience, tools, and access to study the market. All studies, research, and information specific to our area speaks overwhelmingly to our area's need for active adult communities. At present, we have very little to offer. This means that active adult seniors must look to other communities. We want to retain them in our community, opportunities for 3 generations to live near one another. The Pulte Del Webb team brought a premier active adult community asset for the area and also rolled up their sleeves, invested in a lot of upfront research, put in years of effort, worked with our family and the neighboring landowners towards a good project. Our family has received many proposals over the years. Several of them have been very attractive. Our family held out for what we consider to be the best fit for the Greenwood, where our hearts are, and met our goals, and we believe this is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time about any other topic? All right, hearing none. Moving on to ordinances and resolutions. Notice of intent to consider ordinance number 2223.
It's to amend the official zoning map adopted by reference and unified development ordinance number 2029. Proposed rezoning of approximately 185.97 acres located on the east side of Five Points Road, 1 mile south of County Line Road, sponsored by Bates, Campbell, Foster, Hill, Hopper, Gibson, and Lex. I believe we have a motion on the floor for this one already from the last meeting.
All right,
Yes.
yes, we do. So we're starting on the motion on the floor. Yes. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. This is Dave with the planning division. I understand members from stormwater and engineering are also here. If technical questions do arise, I'll be brief since you guys are all somewhat familiar with the general project that is before you tonight. It is a PUD rezone from agriculture for the purpose of a 55+ community with pocket parks. Currently, this is before you as a PUD rezone. This would not exclude them from going through a primary plat, secondary plat, and master plan approval. So staff is still going to be working with this project for a long time to ensure that everything is in compliance with our ordinances in Greenwood. Staff does recommend a favorable recommendation, as did Plan Commission, with the non-staff commitments. We also received additional commitments from the petitioner today that they had discussed with property owners that they had been working with to come to the I would ask that you consider these additional commitments that the petitioner has proposed. I understand the petitioner has brought these commitments tonight, and we'll be talking about them further.
Chrissy, can you mute everybody else? Please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Greenwood Common Council. For the record, my name is David Compton, Vice President of Land Acquisition, Pulte Homes of Indiana. First and foremost, I want to apologize for not being here on October 3rd. That was my fault. It was a miscommunication of dates, and I take full responsibility. I'm very sorry that I was not here on October 3rd. Tonight, I'd like to introduce my team briefly. Behind me is Rex Ramage, Director of Land Acquisition, Tim Oakes. Also with me is our civil engineer, Brandon Burke, who's done a lot of drainage work on this, and our traffic engineer, Mr. Steve Fairbach, who did the traffic study dated March of 2022. The extra 2 weeks that we've been able to have before we come back to you, we've been able to accomplish a great deal in meeting with the neighbors. Was able to meet with Dr. Robinson and spend time and understanding, and created a additional commitment to him regarding some adjoining fencing along our common property line. Met with Dr. Robinson on the 8th. Additionally, I got to spend some quality time with the Hakes family as a follow-up meeting to a meeting that was held on September 16th. We met yesterday on a much warmer day than today, and we're able to walk almost the entire property line, including some of the off-site parts of the Grubbs Ditch area, and understand that problem. We'll talk a little bit more about the drainage later, but I think I wanted to take some time, if possible, sir. I know you have a fairly full agenda, but to go through the project briefly, address some of the questions brought forth by the audience, but also the council at the last hearing. Going to go fairly quickly, but we'll always be open for questions, if that would be okay, sir. Yes. Okay. What is Del Webb? Del Webb, since 1955, has been the premier age-restricted community in the United States. It started with Sun City. Pulte purchased Del Webb in 2001. We did the first Del Webb in Fishers in 2005, 6. Since then, we've done Vandalia in Kimballwick and Westville. Age-restricted communities are part of the Housing for Older Persons Act, HOPA, which allows us legally to guarantee school systems that there will not be any school children. It's explicitly stated in the declaration of it being a 55 and better. They're also an amenity-driven community. We plan to spend between $10 and $12 million in the amenities, clubhouse, trails, pocket parks, landscaping, common area boulevards in this project that we think will make it exciting and something that Greenwood's never seen before. Right here, Rex. Oh, wrong one, sorry. Operator error. The benefits of Del Webb include a guarantee of no school children. Our average age is 64.8. The average household size is 1.7. 40% of Del Webb people are single, widowed, or divorced. So we have kind of a combination of married folks and single people in the community. 50% volunteer 10 hours a week, 10 hours a month in the community in which they live in. They're taking tickets, they're working at the libraries, they're mentoring people, school-age children in the community, while 40% still work part-time, not full-time. According to the Institute of Traffic Engineers, the ITE manual, Del Webb creates up to 60% less trips traffic-wise. We're not out chasing kids going to ball practice and things like that. We're not on the roads at 7 to 9 a.m. being part-time. We go in earlier, go in later, or go in later and come home earlier than traditional neighborhood communities. We're off-peak supporters of restaurants, grocery stores, golf courses, and other businesses. We also provide a limited or less need for police and fire services. Crime Watch is very, very active in Del Webb. Again, with 40% working, we have a lot of people at home during the day. They're out walking the neighborhood. Crime is less in a Del Webb neighborhood. Get this right before we're done, I apologize. There we go. We believe this site is an ideal location. This aerial map, I think, tells a great story. It's between two exits with great access to not only the city of Greenwood, but downtown Indianapolis. Out of the 4 Del Webbs we've done, and the 5th one beyond this that's on the drawing board, the Del Webb that we're proposing in Greenwood is the closest to 465 in the core. So we think it's an ideal location. The St. Francis Hospital close. Our people think about knee replacement. I've been personally to the Ortho Indy on the east side of 65 there, so I know how convenient it is in that way. As part of this process, we've completed the annexation of 393 acres. 186 of that was Del Webb. We know that this, as part of the agreement with the Johnson County, became under the control of the city of Greenwood. We believe that Del Webb will help extend utilities, both water and sanitary sewer and road improvements out into this new area that is under Greenwood's jurisdiction. Here's our colored site plan for Del Webb. The site plans for Del Webb, the stars of Pocket Park, you can see the amenities area and the extensive lake system in it. About 34% of this 186 acres is open space, whether it's in lakes, walking trails. No lot is a back-to-back. Talk about that in a minute. Here's some of the perimeter. What we see around that, we have a heavily landscaped perimeter along 5 Points Road. On the lower left corner, you see a boulevard going into the Kimblewick project, which is what we have an even longer boulevard going into Sagebriar, about 2.5 times Rex, as long as we have in Westfield. So it's going to be a great boulevard approach up to the clubhouse. Speaking of the clubhouse and amenities, this is an example of the style of clubhouse that we use. Great indoor amenities, outdoor swimming pool. Of course, I'm going to put pickleball in. I'm not going to have my residents mad at me. Pickleball is very popular. My dad at 85 still plays 3 days a week down in Sarasota. The pocket parks are also important. And we can't forget the pooches. There'll be a dog park in here also, since about 50% of Del Webb residents own dogs. So we want to make sure we think about all the residents, the yoga lawns, meditation areas, things like that. Everything's interconnected by a walking trail system. We call it the Del Webb Highway, that you can barely see in red here, but it goes behind the lots and is in addition to your typical sidewalks in a community. There we go. There's the better shot of the fact that we designed this so that the lots don't back. Somebody mentioned lot size being bigger. What we like to do is put a common area behind the lots so the lots don't back up to each other. Again, remember 34% of this project is open space. Del Webb is a lifestyle. People want a smaller lot. They want to be social. Del Webb is a very social community. Here's an aerial view of how the houses are spaced. Got that common area behind them. So when you look out your back door, you may see common area behind it instead of just backing up lot to lot. Be 2 series of homes in the project, the Monterey series from 1500 to 2300. Large outdoor cover patio, kitchen islands, entertaining is really important to this buyer. All the homes have a 2-car garage. All the homes will feature hardy plank as the primary exterior material, with also having brick on them with updated elevation. Here's the Sonoma series, a little bigger house. Again, 2-car garages, a lot of the other features, more bedrooms and more baths. And then we had a request from the council to add some elevations from the first hearing back when we listened to the tape from the last October 3rd. Interior finishes, modern, up-to-date kitchens Kitchens for entertaining are really important, but they also live out the back, being a very active community. Some of the other interior photos. Dr. Robinson, had the opportunity to meet with Dr. Robinson on 10/8 out at his house, had a great conversation with him. In the PUD is a commitment that the back of no house will be closer to 250 feet. Was able to understand where his runway is and how we're going to need to work with the staff and Gabe to make sure that we don't have trees at the end of that common property line. And then the last thing, his house is set back, and this could only be seen by meeting with Dr. Robinson in the back in the woods close to the property line. So we have agreed to put up, when we develop that section, a 6-foot wood privacy fence to be maintained by the homeowners association, protect Dr. Robinson's privacy behind his house. That'll be done at Pulte's expense. It actually is at the south end of the lake. I can kind of show you that in a second. The next is the Hakes family. This is done by our engineer who had explained it to me a couple times, but the arrows are where the water goes today. This is based upon the natural topography of this piece of ground. The blue area on the south end is about 100 acres that flows out onto the Hakes property. The green area is about another 40 acres. So today, there's a lot of water that flows onto the Hakes property. Whether or not Pulte develops it or not, there's about 140 acres of that. That's about, it looks like 2.3 million gallons of water during a 10-year event. It's gonna be a lot more when we get a booster on it. That's even more than that. That's today's situation. In the future, we put that water in our lakes, okay? The yellow arrows show how the lakes work in this project. We will almost eliminate the drainage directly east off the property. So we go back just 1 second. You can see there's 2 arrows going directly east. Now there's none. It goes directly north through the Copeland property to Grubbs Ditch. But even more importantly than eliminating, or almost totally eliminating that outfall, is the reduction of water into Grubbs Ditch. Pulte wants to be part of the solution, not the problem. Today, there's 185 cubic feet per second in a 10-year event going into Grubbs Ditch from different locations. When we're done, we think that'll be about a 90% reduction. So Mr. Hicks talked about cutting the amount of water that goes into that ditch. We're gonna cut the amount of water that comes off of this piece of ground by 90%. We will, through the process, work with Gabe, the city engineer, county surveyor, and put in 2 commitments. 2 of the additional commitments are to provide the Hicks family with a copy of all our drainage reports and plans through the process. But we welcome them at the table through the approval process of the drainage and appreciate the 2.5 hours we got to spend yesterday together, kind of walking through and getting a better understanding of this project and their concerns. There we go. Again, there was public comment on traffic improvements. One of the original 9 commitments was improving the traffic along 5 Points. We will be doing that to a level 1 option. We'll be improving about 57% via the cross section provided by staff, and we'll be working with the city of Greenwood's engineering department on that. Why Greenwood? We think it's an ideal location. It's a center of the area, center of the universe, in my opinion, in Johnson County. We'll be able to attract residents from Franklin, Perry, White River, Bargersville, Whiteland, and Franklin. The Greenwood's great step in redevelopment of downtown, extensive park and green space is going to be very attractive for this buyer that lives in Greenwood today and wants to stay here, but also wants to put roots here because they either like it or their kids moved here. We also allow for the expansion of, as I said, of utilities and infrastructure. And most importantly, we believe it fills the current void in the marketing of Greenwood itself. If I live in Greenwood and I'm 55 and better, where do I go for a unique master plan PUD that will help meet my needs going forward? There we go. Why this location? Talked about it briefly. 2 miles in between County Line and Main Street, close to healthcare. The unique site topography, when you drive up that boulevard to the clubhouse, it's about a 20-foot rise. So it's gonna be a beautiful drive right up to the lighted clubhouse when you drive in. We were able to work with a single parcel owner, which we appreciate. And I think a unified vision with Pulte and the landowner. Why PUD? That was the final question was asked. Del Webb is a specific and intentional in its design features and requires flexibility in lot standards, community and street design, as well as signage. I think when you drive through a Del Webb, it's special, it's unique. It's not like a typical subdivision that you find in central Indiana at all. The amenities and the lifestyle that it provides is truly unique to the marketplace. Tonight, if we were successful, we would work with staff and the engineering department, be back in front of the planning commission for a detailed development plan, I think. Hopefully we're the winner, and then probably May, June next year, commence site development with a grand opening in the spring of 2024. I appreciate your consideration and any questions myself or Rex would be able to address. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Mr. Compton at this time?
I have a quick question on the density. I know, obviously, I appreciate the focus we put into the drainage concerns. Density was the other concern that was kind of raised with this. Looking at your development in Fishers and Westfield, what's your kind of units per acre in those developments?
Thanks for asking. It's a good question. I know the one off the top of my head in Fishers is 3.15. This one's at 2.79. I think Rex, Westfield, we had a density cap of 2 in that one because we were adjacent to a urban reserve that had 3 acre minimums. So we had to create a buffer in that one.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question for Mr. Nelson. You mentioned that there had submitted some recent new commitments today, I believe. Did he cover all of those in his presentation? And do you have a copy of them?
I do have a copy of them. I can always run upstairs to print out copies for everyone here if needed. Or you got copies as well? Perfect. So they did, there's 4 commitments, I believe, that they had added in addition, and they can correct me if I've miscounted. Some of them do have A and B under the numbering, but it would be for 4 commitments that you guys are seeing before you. And staff has looked at these commitments, and I really do not have any concerns with these commitments. I would encourage you guys to consider adding these as a gesture to the neighbors. The fence that they would put in, that he's referencing, would need to meet our standards, and we would work with them to ensure that they're putting in a quality fence between the properties.
All right, and these commitments, the couple things that I know specifically were mentioned was the agreements with Dr. Robinson and the agreements with the Hake family about the drainage, all that included in these?
Yes, and they're also providing the owners with owner of 904 North Matthews Avenue with notice when they're going to the county drainage board.
See, it's 3 and 4, and 3, 4.
I'll make a motion
And
with one addition, because I don't see it in the ordinance of the prohibition on violence.
All right, we have a motion to amend ordinance. Yeah. 2223 to include the commitments that have been submitted and to prohibit the use of minor in the development. There's a motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Ms. Gibson. Any discussion on the motion to amend ordinance 2223?
I do have something, usually, I do think the address may have changed. Yes. Is there a new address for this?
Yeah, correct us if we're wrong. 3981 North Matthews Road. East Matthews Road.
Which one is that?
Number 2,
Number 2.
Okay.
the address is 3981.
Yes, sir. However, if it's to not create more confusion, it does say any other owner, in that area that wants a copy of the notice. So regardless of the address.
Okay.
My motion includes 3981.
All right. The motion is to include the corrected address. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion to amend ordinance 2223?
I appreciate both of you working with neighbors on this.
Any other comments? And then roll call on the motion to amend ordinance 2223.
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
and Warner.
Aye.
Ordinance 2223 is amended on a vote of 9-0. Any discussion, further discussion on ordinance 2223 as amended?
I just want to clarify. Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead.
I know that there's been a lot of concern about what the situation would be after the development. And I've talked with a couple of people in the planning or in CDS and asked them if there's been any occasions when a development has been done. And then at the end of that development, there have been some problems, and if so, how those were addressed. And going back as far as 1984, I don't believe there's been any of those situations. Something else I found out, or I got more information on today as I asked questions, and that is that anytime there's a development, there is a manual that's prepared by the stormwater, and it's ongoing annual things that have to be done. And so I'd just like to ask Chris Jones to just give a brief overview of that, because I think that's something that's very important to the adjacent homeowners.
For the record, Chris Jones, Director of Stormwater Management. What the councilman is speaking about is the operation of the manual. It is created by the developer, it's reviewed by the engineering department, the stormwater department. It's accepted by the Board of Public Works and Safety. It's also accepted by the stormwater department. It's signed by the mayor, and it's recorded against the property. And what it does is it gives the city the opportunity to inspect it yearly for compliance with water quality and water retention.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the council?
Yes, Mr. President, I just wanted to kind of confirm, obviously, Dr. Robson's not here to confirm, but I think his issues that he addressed at the last meeting were addressed through these commitments. With the Hicks family, is it okay to ask to confirm if these commitments helps the situation? I know you guys said that you're open to the development with the right planning. Do these commitments by the developer make the situation better as long as we follow through with commitments?
Certainly, the water running off onto our adjacent property is being addressed, we think probably as well as can be at this time. The other reservations that we all have, and I think the neighborhood has about it, not so much at all. But our own property, yes, they're doing a great job addressing that. Hopefully it'll work out.
And as I mentioned, the second issue, which is related, is the Grubbs ditch issue. That's where the water is going to go to. And that's a problem that's going to have to be addressed by Greenwood City. And it's going to have to be addressed by Johnson County and the drainage department, because it's going to have to be reconstructed to an urban type ditch. As I said, I think it's doable, but everybody's going to have to work together.
All right, thank you.
That's our second issue there.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate that.
Any other comments or questions on the council?
Just a comment on Dr. Robinson. I know he's not here tonight, but I did receive a letter that hopefully had sent Dr. Robinson discussing the commitments regarding the fence and giving them information on the airstrip and the steps they were taking to ensure that they'll be in conformance with all state, local, federal laws, as well as providing a 250 feet minimum setback from the east property line. So that they have reached out to Dr. Robinson regarding his property.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions on the council?
Chris, who's ultimately in charge of Grubbs Ditch?
County surveyor, county drainage board.
All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, then roll call. Ordinance 2223 as amended.
Campbell,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Nay.
Williams.
Nay.
And Bates.
Nay.
Ordinance 22-23 passes on a vote of 6.
Bro. Gracie.
Please mute. All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, first reading, resolution 22-24.
A resolution of the Greenwood Common Council approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city of Greenwood and the consolidated city of Indianapolis and Marion County, Indiana, regarding certain road improvements to West County Line Road and to Emerson Avenue, sponsored by Campbell, Foster, and Gibson.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Foster, second. Second, Mr. Lexi. Any discussion or in present, if I want to talk about this one?
Good evening, Mark St. Johnson, the engineer. I presented this to you 2 weeks ago. It's the interlocal agreement between us and the city of Indianapolis. It covers 2 projects. One is the widening of County Line Road between State Route 37 and State Route 135. The other is extension of pedestrian facilities along Emerson Avenue south of County Line Road. The interlocal agreement covers the responsibilities for the city of Indianapolis and the city of Greenwood. And also outlines a cost sharing agreement for the County Line Road widening project where it's within city of Greenwood city limits.
Any questions? So this is going to go from Interstate 69.
Correct. The new punch through, the new interchange at County Line Road when it comes through. City of Indianapolis is looking to widen it to 2 lanes in each direction. Our portion, there's a portion about 1,500 feet on the south side of County Line Road, just west of State Route 135. They're asking for us to share the cost to install pedestrian facilities along that portion.
Any other questions? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 22-24, first reading.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
And Kemp.
Aye. Resolution 22-24 passes first reading 9-0. Resolution 22-25.
A resolution establishing holidays for employees of the city of Greenwood for the year 2023, sponsored by Campbell, Foster, and Gibson.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Foster, second. Second by Ms. Gibson. Any discussion? Questions? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 22-25, first reading.
Gibson. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
And Foster.
Aye.
Resolution 22-25 passes first reading 9-0. Second reading, ordinance 22-26.
An ordinance for appropriations and tax rates for the 2023 budget year, sponsored by Bates, Foster, and Gibson.
A motion? Motion, Mr. Lexi, second, Mr. Hopper. Any discussion on the council? Hearing none, then roll call, ordinance 22-26, second reading.
Gibson. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
And Foster.
Aye.
Ordinance 22-26 passes second reading 9-0. Ordinance 22-27.
An ordinance fixing salaries of appointed officers and employees of the city of Greenwood, Indiana, and city utilities for the year 2023, sponsored by Bates, Foster, and Gibson.
Do I have a motion? Motion, Ms. Gibson, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Foster. Any discussion? Hearing none, then roll call, ordinance 22-27, second reading.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
And Gibson. Aye.
Ordinance 22-27 passes second reading 9-0. Ordinance 22-28.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the clerk of the city of Greenwood, Indiana for the year 2023, sponsored by Bates, Foster, and Gibson.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Foster, second.
Sorry.
Mr. Lexi, any discussion?
I just have one question real quick, just to confirm with Greg. The clerk, judge, and mayor all get the 5% increase, the council does not, correct?
Correct. Any full-time elected officials. That's a 5%.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, then roll call, ordinance 2228, second reading.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Nay.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
And Hill.
Ordinance 2228 passes on a vote of 8-1. Ordinance 2229.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the city judge of the city of Greenwood, Indiana for the year 2023, sponsored by Bates, Foster, and Gibson.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Foster, second. Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion? Hearing none, then roll call, ordinance 2229, second reading.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Nay.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
And Hopper.
Ordinance 2229 passes second reading on a vote of 8-1. Ordinance 2230.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the common council of the city of Greenwood, Indiana for the year 2023, sponsored by Campbell.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Lexi, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Foster. Any discussion? Hearing none, then roll call, ordinance 2230, second reading.
Middleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Nay.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill. Hopper.
Aye.
And Lexi.
Aye.
Ordinance 2230 passes second reading, vote of 8-1. Ordinance 2231.
An ordinance fixing the salary of the mayor of the city of Greenwood, Indiana for the year 2023, sponsored by Bates, Foster, and Gibson.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Foster, second, Mr. Lexi. Any discussion? And then roll call, ordinance 2231, second reading.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
And Middleton.
Nay.
Ordinance 2231 passes second reading, the vote of 8-1. Ordinance 2232.
An ordinance of the city of Greenwood, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for the purpose of providing funds to pay for certain capital expenditures, roads and sidewalk projects, and incidental expenses in connection therewith, and on account of the issuance of the bonds, appropriating the proceeds thereof, and all matters related thereto, sponsored by Bates and Gibson.
Have a motion? Motion by Ms. Gibson, second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Lexi. Any discussion?
Mr. Foster.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Foster. Any discussion on the council? Hearing none, then roll call, ordinance 2232, second reading.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill. Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
And Williams.
Aye.
Ordinance 2232 passes second reading 9-0. Ordinance 2234.
An ordinance of the common council of the city of Greenwood, Indiana for the purpose of establishing councilmanic districts, sponsored by Campbell.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion? Hearing none, then roll call, ordinance 2234, second reading.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill. Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
And Bates.
Nay.
Ordinance 2234 passes second reading, vote of 8-1. Ordinance 2235.
An ordinance providing for an additional appropriation from the American Rescue Plan Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund to budget classification 439, $1 million for security grants to local public school systems operating within the city of Greenwood, sponsored by Bates, Campbell, Foster, Gibson, and Hopper.
You have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Foster. Any discussion? Oh, this is scheduled for a public hearing tonight. We'll open it up for a public hearing. If you're here, wish to speak for or against ordinance 2235, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, or if you're online and would like to speak to this, please speak up. Hearing none. Close the public hearing. Any discussion on the council?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions that I'd like to address. And I'm a little bit puzzled over this for a couple of reasons. One, my understanding is correct, that all of the school districts in question, they already have their own police facilities and protection. So I'm wondering just why this needs to be an additional layer of protection for that. Another question, I guess, I'm going to ask too, and this question is the fact that it seems like probably there are other institutions of secondary education that also apply or be applicable to these funds. I know the ideal is that they have to pay for the funds, and then, of course, then get reimbursed through this ARPA funds. So that's just a couple of questions I have that I'm puzzled about.
Okay.
If I didn't hear your first question, Mr. Bates.
Oh, well, just the puzzlement about with all these school districts in question. We have 3 within our city. They already have police presence and police departments, I suppose, or branches, or however you want to frame that. And why are we offering to give them more money than what they presently have, plus, the taxing districts that they're in?
Sure, great question. First, to address that, Greenwood school system does not have their own police department. Whiteland, or Clark Pleasant schools and Center Road schools both do have their own police departments. This funding is not towards police officers. It is not towards any soft costs, any salary costs. This funding goes strictly towards hard cost items that will last for quite a while, such as camera systems, door lock systems, bulletproof glass, bulletproof proofing that they can put on their windows, things like that that are hard items that will last for quite a while. There has been questions, and we've been asked by a couple other of the local, smaller private schools as to why they weren't funded. This money went towards the 3 largest school systems that we have. Other systems can come to us and request funding for specific projects, but it goes on a per capita basis for the number of students in that system. And nobody's come back to us with that yet.
So I guess that I'm saying that we said here on the council that would happen with the 3 in question. It would be a 3 and a third, a third, and a third. So there's no ratio with that situation, is there?
No, sir. It's a third, and a third, based mainly on the number of students. They're the 3 largest school systems we have.
Right.
And they're the 3 public school systems that we have that are not privately funded.
Shouldn't a private school, if they are in a K through 12 situation, should they also be eligible to be
They can
included?
come to us with a project. We'll look at that project, present it to the council for funding, and it will be on a per capita basis, based on the number of students they have.
Sure. So the 3 in question that we have come to us for those funds.
They have talked to me in the past, yes, about different issues. I have worked with them, and I have heard from all 3 superintendents within the last 2 weeks of how very appreciative they are of the accessibility of this funding. And they have to match or exceed this, and they all are.
Right. Okay. So a private school, then, whatever private school, how about maybe even someone like Central 9?
They do have the possibility. Their funding is a little different. Their funding comes through the different school corporations. So they really need to apply to those school corporations first for their funding, and then come to us secondarily.
Not all of them. Mr. Johnson.
So would it be appropriate for us to include the possibility of these other educational institutions to be a part of this?
Yes, if they come to us with a project and they present a project to us that we feel is fundable, we will come to you with further requests. I don't know if it'll be through ARPA funding, if we have more left, or if it comes through city funding. But right now, we wanted to address the three largest school systems that have the most amount of students in them.
I just asked a question. Just to me, it feels like smaller ones are being left out. I don't think anybody should be left out.
I don't
regardless
think
of public
anybody should
or
be
private.
left out either. It's just a matter of how much funding does the city have? And do we have through the ARPA funding to fund these things? Thank you, sir.
All right, any further questions?
I'd like to offer an amendment to the emergency question that
All right, go ahead.
other schools, private, and that are qualified K through 12, or whatever, or maybe Central 9, be included as a possibility. for these funds.
I think that's vague somehow, it seems like.
Does it need to be named?
The ordinance is for $1 million to be divided up between the three school systems. I think the mayor stated that the other schools are eligible to ask for funds, but they would be funded outside of this $1 million that we're approving tonight. And this isn't,
So that makes it then that this money is entirely earmarked for these three schools. And
yeah, that's exactly the case with the ordinance.
why can't other schools? All right.
It would need to be a separate ordinance.
Yeah.
I would not suggest it be an amendment to this ordinance, but if that is, for example, Central 9 comes to us with a request, they first need to request that through their immediate funding source, which is the 9 townships that support that school. And then that money would go towards that. But Central 9 supports 9 separate townships that are not all a part of Greenwood or Johnson County at that.
Okay, so if that were the case, they would come to us, where would we get the funding for that?
We would have to look somewhere within the budget to see if we could find the special appropriation.
We have a motion to amend ordinance 2235. Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion fails for lack of a second. Any further discussion on ordinance 2235? Hearing none, then roll call, ordinance 2235, second reading.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Pendleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
And Campbell.
Aye. Ordinance 2235 passes second reading 9-0. Resolution 2221.
A resolution of the Newman Common Council to petition for appeal of relief from property tax levy limitations sponsored by Campbell.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Foster. Any discussion? Resolution 2221. Hearing none, then roll call, second reading, resolution 2221.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Pendleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
And Campbell.
Aye. Resolution 2221 passes second reading 9-0. New business, introduction to new ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 2227.
A resolution of the Agreement Common Council waiving noncompliance of MREIC NDN 3 LLC regarding its failure to timely file its compliance. Sponsored by Hopper.
This is the result of our last meeting. Why did they need a suspension of the rules to first reading? The question was why the need for suspension of the rules through first reading. Can anybody here or online answer that question?
Yes, Mr. President, I apologize. This is David Webb. I spoke to you guys on October 3rd. I'm the Director of Industrial Portfolio from Boston. We're requesting the suspension of rules through the first reading. As we mentioned last or 2 weeks ago, we acknowledge our mistake. We have put forth the CF1 form. Amazon also withdrew their appeal that they had for the review that was in with the city. So at this point, we're just looking to move forward from this to begin getting back on track. As we talked about before, Amazon currently employs about 3,645 employees with an annual total salary of about $104 million. And we're just looking to move forward from this and continue on with what we need to do, with what you guys need to do, and continue on with the tax abatement and the CF1 form continuation through next year.
There's been a request for suspension of the rules for first reading. I will take a motion
So
to
moved.
suspend the rules. Motion by, who said that?
Mr. Bates.
Mr. Bates. Motion by Mr. Bates to suspend the rules through first reading. By the second. Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion on suspension? Hearing none, then roll call. Suspension of the rules through first reading on resolution 2227.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Nay.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
And Gibson.
Aye.
Rules are suspended through first reading on ordinance 2227 on a vote of 8-1. Have a motion on first reading. Motion, Mr. Hopper, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Foster. Any discussion on resolution 2227? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 2227, first reading.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
And Hill.
Resolution 2227 passes first reading 9-0. Miscellaneous business. This is the second opportunity that we set aside for members of the audience to address the council, this time concerning items that are not on tonight's agenda. So if you're here or online, wish to speak to the council, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, to speak up online. Hearing none, then moving on, miscellaneous business from the council. I believe all you on the council should have received copies of the proposed 2023 meeting calendar. Just note that there are all the dates that have an asterisk by them are Wednesday dates. So January the 4th, January the 18th, February 22nd, September 6th, and November 8th, May 3rd, all fall into that category. So any questions on the council about this? We have a motion to accept the proposed meeting dates for 2023.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bates, second. Second by Mr. Hopper. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? They are adopted on unanimous votes. Any other miscellaneous business from the council? All right, anything from the corporation council?
No, sir.
Anything from the controller?
Nothing for me.
Mr. Mayor? We are adjourned.